What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Fourth and Go here on a Wednesday night, our regular time. But what makes it special? It's baseball season, baby. The 2023 MLB season kicks off tomorrow, opening day. Everybody plays. What a beautiful sight. It's going to be getting 15 great games coming our way, and just that excitement of America's Classic right in front of us. I can smell it. I can taste it. I'm Dave Gleckner. This is Mark Tomasini. We are Fourth and Go from the Heat Ratio Sports Network, and we're going to have a show here packed with all MLB predictions and then get into a little bit of Eagles and Sixers and Flyers along the way. But with that said, let's bring in my man with the plan in the Phillies striped jersey, Mark Tomasini. What's up, brother?
What up? It's a wild winning Wednesday because the Sixers just won. Life is good. Cheers.
You know what? You're going to make me do this. Yeah.
Hey, now we're matching. Obviously, good things going with the Sixers. Big win against Dallas. I think we'll get into that later in the show. But obviously, opening day is tomorrow. We're less than 24 hours away from the start of the season, and we are ready to bring it to you. We love the beginning of seasons when we can go by with our predictions. They're fun shows. They're interesting shows. And we get to look back at the end of the season, see where we were, and see how off we were, how on we were. So it's a good time. It's a good time. It's fun.
Yeah, and we're pretty good at it. We do all right. And my man Cease checking in. I just saw Adam on another show when we were just talking about tomorrow. Cease, we're getting into the whole season right now. And it's right. It's Let's Go Phillies. We'll get into a lot of what we think is going to happen this year. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with a little bit of where we're headed. So, Mark, let's just, before we get into the baseball season, our predictions, let's just roll this up real fast and talk about the Philadelphia Phillies first. And they've left Clearwater, came up here, played a couple of games against the Blue Jays to just get some work in before the season, and they moved to where it's going to be played in Texas tomorrow before they flew out there. And listen, probably the biggest anticipated season on record since back in 2010-11. So we're talking 13 years here. We haven't had this big of hopes for a team in that long a time. And rightfully so, coming off a World Series runner-up finish, NL champions. What a just magical season down there. But I think the big story behind the Phillies in this preseason is injuries. And I think a lot of people are a little worried, a little scared, more in the national media than in the local media, because we know what this team has, and it's here. It's with the heart. But, you lose Rhys Hoskins. You got the Ranger Suarez, little tendonitis. You got Painter coming with a, sore elbow as well. Some guys that were really supposed to pop for you. And then you have some concerns, obviously, with Harper starting the season on the DL. I think they are absolutely all rightfully so to be worried. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little worried too, but I'm not worried after May 29th, May 30th.
Right.
But I'm worried for these first 2 months. But then I remind myself, we were 22 and 29, I think, before Rob Thompson took over. It can't get worse, can it?
No, it really can't get worse. And I think that's, when we go into it, it's, the Joe Girardi-less factor is going to take over with this team going forward. I mean, you talk about the strides that they've made in the bullpen, and I don't think I'm as worried. I mean, you bring in Trey Turner, he's third or fourth odds-on favorite to win MVP in the National League. Like, it's, what he can do in this offense potentially, even with Harper out for the first 2 months of the season, still brings a lot, and they've increased their bullpen. And I think, like the Suarez injury, it's right now it's at nagging level. It's not at a worry level. I mean, Painter, you know what? Everybody got excited, rightfully so, but maybe it was just a reprieve for us to let's slow it down a little bit. It's kind of like a sign, like, let's not put the cart ahead of the horse here. So yeah, could we be in a better situation? Sure, we could, but that's just not what's played out for us. But I think this team, you said it's right here in the heart. It's, can they deal with adversity now? Because this is really what's going to happen, because there's a couple ways that you can go after playing in the World Series and losing. You can either retreat, and the injuries would say that it's going to go that way, but injuries is not something they can control, and they could fall back, or they can, use their determination and move forward. And I think that somebody who deserves a lot of credit, and we've touched on from time to time for making this thing the way it is Dave Dombrowski. I think he's come in here. He's done a bang up job. And, we look at all the big moves he makes, but it's also the little moves that he makes. And I kind of just wanted to interject here with something that he did today. I don't know if you saw this, but the Phillies did make a trade with the Oakland Athletics. We sent.
I'm big.
You're what?
I'm big on this trade.
Yeah. We sent a right-handed pitcher, Billy Sullivan. I'm not familiar with him. I hadn't seen him. So I, don't know too much about it. But we traded him for a 24-year-old outfielder, Christian Pache. I believe it's Pache.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And he was, even as of 2 years ago, the third ranked prospect in the country. In them, in regards to prospects.
Oh, yeah, tops in the Atlanta Braves system.
Yep. Did he wait? So I didn't research this any further. I guess did he go over there in the Olsen trade?
He did. He was the big piece of the Olsen trade. So I was collecting cards at the time, and I still am. But Pache was one that everybody wanted to get a piece of. Pache was the number one prospect in the Braves organization, and right there, like Spencer Strider came up, some others have come up, Michael Harris, and they surpassed him. But he was a top talent projected. Problem is the kid just can't hit. He can play defense, he can run, but he just hasn't found that magic. He's batted, I think, 180 in his career in the pros. So but we got the whisperer, right? We got what's his name, Kevin Long. Yeah, I think it's a great marriage, and you know what it does. And I hate to cut you off if you were going to get there, and you let me know. But the one thing it does is they were trying to put Sosa a little bit in center field, so they could find a way to put Sosa and Bohm and everybody together. But now what they can do is they can put Bohm over at first,
Sosa
third, and now add this Pache because Brandon Marsh is still a liability against lefties. So if you can just spot him against righties.
Well, so I was looking into his numbers a little bit. In his career, he's 220 against lefties and 180 or 160 something.
Yeah.
Against righties. So it's going to be a platoon. Both of them are excellent, fast defenders, top notch. If Kevin Long gets to both of them, I mean, who knows? Maybe one of them. I don't care which one it is, but hopefully, like they're both under team control. So I would love to see one of them just take the job from the other. But again, it's about the bat. It's not about the defense.
Right.
But just, and why I wanted to circle back on my whole diatribe is Dave Dombrowski makes the right little moves. Like he brought in Marsh, which was kind of looked as an afterthought. We were looking at the Kiermaiers and stuff like that around the deadline time, and they brought in Syndergaard and Marsh in two separate trades, both from the Angels. Marsh ends up being a team control guy who already showed a little more pop here than he did at his time in LA because he worked with Kevin Long. So you hope that he got more of that tutelage this spring and he can improve. And then when he brought in Edmundo Sosa, remember at the time it was like one of the first moves of the trade deadline. It was like maybe 5 to 7 days from the deadline. And it just went under the radar. Everybody showed the clip of Sosa beating the umpire when he made that turnaround throw when he was in St. Louis. That's all you saw. And it was just like, all right, he wanted to restore. And then you see that it led to Didi getting cut and just parting ways with him. That changed the whole perspective because Sosa ended up it wasn't until like early to mid-August, once he got his footing here, that he started contributing. And now we might have to rely on him, as you mentioned just a couple minutes ago, because of the injury to Hoskins. We were trying to utilize him in the outfield, which is not a natural position for him. Now we can put him at third on days where we give Derek Hall the day off and we put Bohm there. Like there's a lot of moving pieces. Now it's unfortunate that we have to deal with all these injuries, but we have answers. And I think that Dombrowski has done everything in his power to supplant this team and to make sure that there's a next man up. So that's why I'm not as worried, because I really like what Dombrowski's doing. And I think if we're having any problems, I mean, I'm not going to get into it too much now, but with the pitching, when it comes to the deadline, I think he'll make the right moves. Just say it right there. Just like that.
I agree with in faith we know what Dave Dombrowski is, and he's a guy that wants to win now. and wants to win at all costs, and that's okay. We do too. So yeah, I guess there's just been a lot of. My point was, and I think you're there too, is there's just a lot of noise around the Phillies camp right now because people think that these injuries are going to be debilitating, right? And a lot of people out there think the Phillies won't be able to rebound. They got lucky last year, and I don't. I think they're going to be okay. Hey, Cease, 9th game. That's awesome. I think that's a Sunday game. Great day because I'm looking at the 10th. But who's playing first tomorrow? I think it's got to be Hall against DeGrom. I think you got to put a lefty in there. And I think they put him in the field. I do. I think that's what they end up doing. At least that's what they ended up doing with the Toronto series this weekend. So I think you see him in the 4 or 5 spot. It's looking like it's Turner. It's looking like it's Schwarber 2. And then it's looking JT 3, Hall 4, Bomb 5. So we'll see, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think the matchup works, and he is your first base at this point. He is the guy at this point. You got to treat him like it. You got to keep him. He's your best first baseman on the team right now.
Yeah.
So you got to treat him as such. And he understands the magnitude of what he's doing because we don't know how he reacted when he found out that he was going to be the guy, but he went up to Reese right when it happened. He talked to him in the locker room. He's like, "I'm sorry," and he gave him a hug. He's like, I think
nobody wants to win a spot that way. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to win their spot that way.
No, and I think he understands that, and I think he's probably feeling privileged to be able to take his spot. But I think he's in a realistic, and I think the great thing about this team, and it's going to kind of go into what my issue is with the rankings of teams, but this team has such good chemistry. And I think it's one of those non-stat pieces, when you got the Mets and the Padres, above the Phillies in the rankings everywhere. When you got that going on, I'm like, these guys don't either, the Padres is not an ideal situation to me. I don't like a lot of the personalities there. And the Mets is a lot of mixing it up and putting it together and seeing if it sticks. Phillies, they did it in a short amount of time. This is the major league team, major league, but they had a common goal and they all got together and did it. And they all play for each other. There's no I, it's all we.
Yeah, I agree. And that's baseball is so mercurial, so temperamental, so mental. They all know how to play this game. But if you can't be in tune and trusted, and we heard that a lot even with the 93 team back in the day with Fergosi, was he the best, signal caller, game manager? No, but he could drink beers with the guy in the back room and tell them if they sucked or if they didn't. And that's the kind of stuff that this team had over others. So I agree. So, I mean, that's the thoughts coming out of spring training. So getting into this team, I'm going to ask you this first, and then I'll answer it behind you. Where do you think their floor is, and where do you think their ceiling is?
To me, their floor is finishing 3rd in the East. Their ceiling is finishing 1st. I really don't want.
No, 1st in the East. No, I want even higher. What is their ceiling? Is it World Series champ?
Their ceiling is definitely World Series champs. I mean, you saw what they did in that. After they fired Girardi, it was a totally different team, and I just love the potential of this team. I really do, and I think they have a good thing, and I think they've packed it in for a couple of years here where they're going to really give it their all, and I think they only got better this offseason. They only got better.
Yep. No, so I'll answer. I think the floor is actually 4th place in the East. I think if all things go wrong, injuries keep piling up, and the Marlins just find a little bit of magic like they did during the COVID season and found a way to make the playoffs, the Phillies could falter it to 82 and 80, and the Marlins could just have a sneaky year. But I agree with you. I think the ceiling is as high as World Series champs. We saw it last year. Nobody could beat the Astros, but the Phillies went and took 2 games from them and almost got that World Series, right? If they could have just found a way to score an extra run in Game 4 and not get no hit, it's tough. It's tough. But
they had a better bullpen, which they
did.
Which they went out and did this year. They went out and got a bullpen.
Yep. No doubt about it. So I agree with you. I think that the ceiling is as high as World Series champ. So, before we get into our predictions for the NL East, let's just, give a little bit more on the Phillies real quick here. What do you think is their strongest suit right now between batting, pitching, and bullpen? Starting pitching and bullpen.
Yeah, it's their batting. I think at this point, obviously, you add Turner and you now have a true blue leadoff hitter who can do a lot more than your average leadoff hitter. Like I said, he's, I think third odds. I think I might be wrong on that, but I think it's third, fourth.
He's right there. He's plus 850. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
He's what?
He's plus 850, and I think that's third or fourth. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got over in the NL, it's Acuna one, and I think Betts is behind it. But he's third or fourth. Yeah.
That's what I thought, because I just saw it real quick today that
it might be Soto. Yeah.
Probably. So you got him, obviously I haven't seen anything that says it's going to happen. I've been heavy on Castellanos going to have a bounce back year, but I'm not sure. But I do like the fact that Schwarber moves down to 2. He can get more RBIs. He has more protection really in front of him, because now, I know he's used to being the leadoff, but I mean, you have Trey Turner in front of you and you're protected on both sides. For the time being, you have JT behind you. Later in the season, you could have Bryce behind you. You're protected. A guy who can mash like that. Like, their pitchers are not going to have a choice but to pitch to him. They're not going to. With this lineup, you don't really have a choice. If everyone's healthy, when Harper gets back, you're not going to have a choice. You can't. You got to pitch to Harper and Turner and Realmuto and Schwarber, even Hall. Hall's going to see a lot of meatballs. I really think that's a big thing. So to me, they're hitting, or they're starting pitching. We're dealing with injuries and they're not a full 5 at this point. And then the bullpen, they got a lot better, but their hitting, I think, is just phenomenal. And I think that's, the fire starter, everything.
I don't disagree with you, but I will say their strength in numbers, and I think the numbers are better in the starting rotation than it happened in quite some time. At first, my eyes kind of squinted and my head I scratched my head when I heard the signing for Taijuan Walker. And the numbers don't bother me, because I've always said it before. It's not my money, right? So I'm not worried about money or numbers. There's no cap in baseball. So there's a luxury tax, and, we're willing to go over it. But, when I saw him at the WBC and I saw how he was performing in spring, I'm like, okay. And then you can push Ranger back to 4. And then, listen, we had to start Falter and Syndergaard in the World Series and playoffs last year. That's trash. And now you got the opportunity to maybe be starting. And Falter's okay.
Well, we're going into the beginning of the season with Falter.
Yeah, and we had to, but I'm not I'm just saying as 5th. Not you never see a 5th start in the playoffs. Adding that bona fide 3rd and then hoping, and this injury to Andrew Painter might be a blessing for us. Yeah. Because he was going to have an innings cap anyway. Right. And the ability to maybe pitch him into May, let him be released to the Hounds, then might give you the flexibility to have him available for you in October. So I think this rotation can be sneaky good, top 5 in the MLB. Look, the offense we know, but I could see this rotation being the strength of the team until the offense gets fully healthy. That's just, and the bullpen, all right, I got to admit, it's throwing darts, right? Yeah, you're going to hit a 20, you're going to hit a 3 too. And you never know with bullpens. But I do like the signing of Kimbrel. I like Soto. Am I going to love him? I don't know. I heard he's a little wild. We'll see. Maybe it's Alvarado, who we didn't love until September last year. He had to go to the minors to reinvent himself. So there's a lot going to go on with the bullpen, but it's a strength in numbers, and that's what I like about the bullpen.
Right. They've added more, and that's the thing. Yeah. They really – what they lose? Eflin? That's, they really didn't lose much in regards to that. So,
all right. You ready to get into our season-long predictions?
Sure.
All right. Let's start off with the NL East. And what I'm going to do is I will lead off the NL East for us, because let me take that off and take this off, and I'm going to show where I sit for the NL East. All right. Simply put, I still think the Atlanta Braves are the regular season champs of the NL East. I just think they play the brand of baseball and have the talent up and down that lineup throughout the rotation, in the minors, in the bullpen, to really be a team that is, respected and going to win the most games in the NL East. They did it last year. Obviously, they came in, overtook the Mets after being down, I think, 10 games at some point in the season. They just have mind control over this division right now. And with, the skipper they have and the talent they have, they didn't get worse. They're at least the same, if not better, adding Sean Murphy to the mix, still have Darno there, and, a little bit more, seasoned guys like, Harris gets the extra year this year. Vaughn Grisham, we could see step up. Swanson's out. So I think the Braves are still the beast of the East. I'll give them the lead and the win in the division. I think the Mets, listen, losing Diaz is huge for them, and David Robertson's going to be the closer. They're going to lose some games that they really count on winning.
Right.
But I think those 40-year-olds at the top of the rotation are going to give them enough kind of juice up through, I'll say, August. And then they're going to do what they did last year and start on the fade train. I only have the Phillies in third because of the fact is I think with Harper not coming back till June, maybe even July, hopefully June is what we're hearing, and some of the other pitchers in the rotation, it may just take them a while to get their feet right. But 90 wins would still be an incredible year. I think they had 88 or 89 last year. So that'd be another step up. So I get the Phillies in third, still making the playoffs. Miami, I do think Miami's better. I think Mattingly had a cloud over that team. I think adding Luis Arraez, I think is a big. I even think Gene Segura will be good.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I really like them this year. The pitching is strong. Alcantara is good. Luzardo, now you're going to get a full season out of Edward Cabrera. I have high hopes for him. And they have a couple of, decent lefties and Rogers. Like, I think they're going to be okay. And then lastly, Washington. God, I don't, 60 was a push for me to find that. We'll get to Marks in a second. But, I do like some of the young talent. I actually think Gray in the rotation is going to have a better year, but they're going to struggle. And it's going to be tough for them to find a way. But that's what I got. I got three teams making the playoffs in the NL East, and the Phillies rounded up as a wild card as long as the Mets. So I'll pass it over to you, Mark.
Okay. Yeah. And the Phillies won 87 games last year.
87. Good call. Thanks.
Yep. Mets and the Braves both won 101. So Dave and I are actually pretty similar. You just switched 2 and 3 between the Phillies and the Mets. We actually both have our third place teams, him, the Phillies, me, the Mets at 90 and 72 record. I agree with you. I think the Braves are still the beast of the East. I think they just have a farm system to grow up together. I think they're consistent. I think Spencer Strider's, going to take strides forward. I think they have a lot of good things going for them. They're still very talented. So, I'm still with you on that point. I think the Phillies got better. The Phillies got a lot better. I know we're dealing with injuries and stuff, but I think this team will pull off the streaks that they did in the summer. They went on long winning streaks, after Thompson became manager. And I think they lost a lot of games in the beginning of the year last year that they shouldn't have lost. And I think that was due to managing. And I think that, they will be able to just keep the train rolling. I think Harper does get back by June. But like I said earlier, they only added and they only got better. So even with these injuries that they're dealing with, I think the sky's the limit for this team. I think it's just going to be that pitching that keeps them from being the first place team. The Mets, my thought there with them is they brought in a lot of pieces. They brought in a lot of pitchers. They brought in, I forget, I don't know his name. I think he's a Japanese pitcher, but he's supposed to be really good. They signed him to a deal.
Same guy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They lost DeGrom, but I think DeGrom is always, that's an annoying situation for them because he's so good, but he's never healthy. He went to Texas, ran after, and got the money. I just think that there's no cohesion. I think Cohen's just trying to spend money. I don't think they have a lot coming up, and I think they take a little step back. The Mets got to take advantage of the Phillies team at the beginning of the season, who wasn't playing well. That's why, you know, last year, like I said, both the Mets and the Braves had 101 wins. Not going to be the case this year because the Phillies are better. The Marlins are better than they were last year. Nationals are still the Nationals. They're rebuilding. They're going to do what they do. But yeah, I see what you're saying in regards to, you know, the Marlins maybe being a little scary. They've definitely gotten better, but to me, I still think they're, you know, a little bit away. But like I said, give me the Phils in second place in the first wild card spot, but we'll get into that later. So
I love it. I love it. And hey, let's go over a couple of things before we get into the rest of our divisional picks here. We'll go division by division, league by league, and we'll get to our eventual World Series picks. But something interesting to really take into account this year in the baseball season, major rule changes. And many of you probably know this by now, but the pitch clock has shown to be probably, you know, one of the biggest changes in the sport's history. And we're saying that already, history. It reduced games by 26 minutes in spring training from the average game length already last year. I'm hearing players love it. I'm hearing executives love it. I'm hearing writers love it. I'm hearing umpires love it. You know, a little trickier on the umpires. They got to, you know, be the bad guy at times. But I think it's a huge boon for baseball. And we actually saw a half-run increase in runs scored per game in spring training this year. Not sure if that's directly correlative to the pitch clock yet, but something we got to keep an eye on. Also, limited number of pickoffs to first base and bigger bags, which actually gives a little bit, you know, think about how bang a play is at second base on a steal.
Right.
You know, get a little bit, give them another inch or so on that bag in the spot. You know, I think you're going to see a lot more stolen bases, especially with the limited number of pickoffs. So, you know, just a couple of rule changes, but then the last most significant one that you're going to see, which I think will increase the fun of baseball, is we're done with the shift.
Yep.
No more three guys on one side of an infield trying to, you know, take away your hard hit balls that should be singles. You know, I always was of the opinion, you know, you should find ways to adjust yourself. But in the end, it's, you know, the NBA doesn't let you play zone defense. They do, but they don't. They don't let you camp out in the middle. Like, you can play zone, but you can't have 3 seconds in the middle on defense. So, you know, leagues prevent some of this to create offense. NFL, obviously, with their passing rules. So I'm okay. And the more I thought about it, all these leagues have adjusted to get more offense. I think that's one way to do it. So those are 4 major rule changes. Mark, did anything catch your eye out of those?
No, I mean, well, I mean, it all does, because I think just for a fan perspective, the time of the game, I think, is huge. And it's also huge. Last year, the Phillies enabled it a lot. They started the, you know, 6:40 games. It's a big difference, especially if you want to get children to watch, if you want to get kids to watch, they're not staying up as late. They kind of can get into it earlier. I think it's kind of a good thing. You know, sometimes these baseball games just drag out, and it's really rough. You know, there's so much going on. There's 162 of these a year. So you're spending close to 4 hours on these. It's tough. So getting it down to 2.5, 3 hours, like it makes a huge difference. It makes it easier to follow. The pitch clock, I think and like you said about the, you know, runs actually going up, I think it keeps people fresh. I think you get so zoned out, and I think, like, you get colder on the bench waiting for an inning. You see the kickoffs and the throw off. Sometimes you got half-hour innings. I mean, that's a rough, you know, stretch to go through. So I think these rules actually all for the better, and it's going to change the way the game is played. And, you know, I think the one thing is, you know, we have to see, I think he's been practicing it, but Harper, you know, he'll have to get his routine down, because he was one who was, you know, took a while at the plate, but I think he'll be all right.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree, but, you know, just something to be wary of talking about baseball this year and the exciting changes they've done. I think, you know, one person said, hey, that's going to be less baseball. No, it's not less baseball. You still get 27 outs. It's just going to be less dead time and quicker baseball. So really excited for that. All right, let's get into our predictions, and let's stick with the NL just because we've been there already. And we're going to go to NL Central. Since I led off the NL East, I'll let you stick and lead off with the NL Central.
Okay, so I'm going to go from 5-1, pulling up the rear. Your Cincinnati Reds at 60-102. Ken Griffey is like the 4th highest paid player on that team right now. Ken Griffey Jr. Let that sink in. They got nobody. They're rebuilding. They're far, far away. Pirates at 70 and 92. I think it's a little better than they were last year. They are trying to sign a contract to Brian Reynolds, who is a fantastic player. They still have a lot of building to do, but maybe they get a little better. Anyway, this is where things start to get interesting. I honestly went back and forth between the Cubs and the Cardinals for 2 and 3. I end up with the Cubs at 3. I really just don't think they have enough pitching. They went and they got better in the field, well, at least like at the bat. They brought in Bellinger and they brought in
Dansby Swanson.
Dansby Swanson. I think they got a lot better on offense. I just don't think it all puts together, and they don't have pitching. So I have the Cubs at 82 and 80. Then in second place, I have the Cards at 86 and 76, not making the playoffs. Cardinals, I think, take a step back. Adam Wainwright being their best pitcher. We saw what he did in the World Baseball Classic. He looked cooked. And, I don't see them, like, they still have all the hitting in the world, obviously, with Goldschmidt and Arenado. But to me, the Phillies took care of them. I know it was only 2 games because they only needed 2 games. But I'm not a hard believer in the Cardinals. And I'm not the biggest believer in these guys, but these guys are the best, in my opinion. The Brewers at 90 and 72 win the Central.
All right. Little different, but not too far off. I actually have the Pittsburgh Pirates in last place, bottom of the NL Central, 66-96. I like that they added some guys like McCutchen. I know they got Choi. They've tried to do some things to create a little bit more pop and fans in the seats. And
I think they added Josh Bell too.
No, he's Guardians. I'm pretty sure he's on the Guardians, but I don't love what they have from a pitching perspective. They got young guys. I think Brian Hayes makes a step up this year. I think, Neil Cruz is exciting and going to be a great player in this league. But in the end, I think they're going to battle down there at the bottom, and they'll fight with the Cincinnati Reds for 4th place. They go 68-94. I'm kind of with, a lot of people out there. The Reds, I like their pitching staff. Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, Ashcraft can be all right. So I think they're going to start to build some things, but they were so silent in the offseason. I think they're trying to build that farm system, come up. But I got them 4th. Chicago, I'm not far off from you, but I got them 75, not 80. I think the Cubs did try and spend money. I think I read somewhere they spent $300 million in salary. So, I do think they're going to get better, but I don't think they get all the way to the top 2 teams. And I am with you 100% on these St. Louis Cardinals. I think they're going to fade a little bit. 92 wins last year, 93. I got them down to 85 this year. I saw a lot of things, but the biggest thing for me with them is that they were, I think they were like 46 and 26 in the division, 72 games. They go down to 54 this year. They're going to lose 18 games in the division. It's a big leap down. They feasted on the bad teams. They had a losing record against 5 winning teams last year. So I just think they were a little bit of, false hope. And the Wainwright thing's real. They have no pitching.
Yeah, they have no pitching.
And then I got the Brewers. Not great, but good enough. 88-74 to win that division. So, all right, I'll toss it to you for the NL West.
Sure thing. All right, this time I'm gonna go top to bottom. So I like to change it a little bit. But I have the Dodgers winning 102 games this year, coming down from their 111 wins this year. Again, they're not, heavily in the pitching department, obviously a lot better than the Cardinals, for example, but they have a lot of offense. They have a lot of pop, but they've lost some pieces. So Dodgers still win that division. Padres, I have them getting into the playoffs as the final wild card, but at 87 and 75, I don't like the chemistry there. I really don't. You got Tatis coming off of these PED. I'm guessing that's at least the first month of the season. I'm trying to think. It was like an 81 game suspension or an 80 game suspension.
Yeah, he's 20 days. I think April 20th, something around there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But even still, regardless, they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent, both pitching and we saw it. They have a lot of talent pitching and hitting. I don't like the chemistry. I don't like the fit. I always feel like they're trying to throw money at everything and get everything together. 87 and 75 though, but they get into that final wild card spot. Giants 81. That's what they are. They're, Gabe is just middle of the pack. Diamondbacks 77 and 85, and then we round out with the Rockies at 66 and 96. Don't really have much to say on either of them. Diamondbacks have some good young players, but they're just still not there yet.
Yeah. All right, so I'll start the bottom. I do have the Rockies. I'm with you. Like, they just, I don't mean to, they got Chris Bryant last year. They got some guys stuck there. Like, they're killing them. Like, they're letting them die.
Yep.
It's just a shame is what I feel like. They really are not trying to win right now. I got them at 64 wins, way in the bottom of that division, and a tough division. I got the Diamondbacks in fourth, but you said it earlier. They're getting a little better, and I actually have them to exceed their win total this year. They go to 77-85. I love Corbin Carroll. Very good chance to be a rookie of the year there. A guy like there. They've had a few guys come up. They made the trade last year and gave away Varsho to the Toronto Blue Jays. But I think it's all about building a certain chemistry in that locker room with some young guys. And then you have an ace. And when you have an ace in a staff, I think that goes a long way. So I think Diamondbacks are decent. Giants 80-82. Again, they're just finding ways to just be mediocre.
Yeah.
Adding that Michael Conforto, that's great. But Mitch Haniger, that's great. But it's just not enough to do it for me. And then I had the Dodgers in second place at 90 and 72.
Okay.
Man, they lost a ton, didn't they? Like, it's really hard to see. I know they can, and I know they're the Dodgers, but they won over 110 games or something last year. This is a big drop.
111 last year.
Yeah. And then I do have the Padres at 92 and 70 winning the division. I'm with you. I'm not a Padres guy. I'm not in love with the chemistry, but that offense is so good. And when, Tatis comes back, and we talked about it, I just think they're tough. So I have them winning the division by a couple games. And then, we'll see. I have them both making the playoffs. So I'll start off with the AL East, Mark.
Sure.
One of the areas that, I'm excited about this year is the AL East, and it's for a few reasons, but I just think there are some really, 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 really good teams in the AL East this year. And I think they're back to being able to provide probably 3 teams in the playoffs. And it's going to start with the Toronto Blue Jays. They're going to win that division this year. I got the Toronto Blue Jays getting 94 games. I got the Tampa Bay Rays, who have made the playoffs in 4 straight seasons, coming in second, 92 and 70. Really like the pitching staff. I think if Glasnow comes back early in, end of April, early May, I think that's going to be a hoop for them. I think Eflin actually is decent for them too. Springs was good, Rasmussen, and we got McClanahan. That pitching, they're going to be one of the best in the league once again. And then I got the Yankees at 90 wins. And the only reason I have the Yankees not winning that division, I just think the injuries and the old age of some of their guys in there are just going to have them start slow. And every game means something early in the season. It means the same as it does in April as it does in September. But Rodon out, Severino out, and I'm just worried Bader's out. I love that they brought up Volpe to start at shortstop, that young kid. I think that's going to be great for them. But I just think they're going to struggle out of the gate. So they got the Giants and the Phillies in the first 2 series. So keep an eye on that. I like the Red Sox this year. 83-79. I got them in fourth. And I only say I like from a standpoint of, I think they were so unlucky last year with their health. They were like the most injured team, and they were in it for a while. And I think I saw they were 3-16 against the Blue Jays. 3-16. I could try to lose, and I wouldn't go 3-16. So I think they can flip the script a little bit there and get to 83 wins. And then I got the Orioles. We love the Orioles. They were fighters last year. I think a plus 30 win differential from their previous season, but they don't get back to 80 this year. They're 75, but they're still developing and growing. I think they're a team to be reckoned with. Sorry, Orioles, got you last, but in my short speech there, Blue Jays, Rays, Yankees, Red Sox, all over 500, Orioles just under.
We're a little bit different. I have the Yankees winning the division at 95 and 67. But it's true, I didn't take into account the injuries that they are going into the season start. I knew Rodon was injured, but I forgot about Severino. I think that just happened recently. Didn't they just recently put him on the IL? I think I missed out on that. I have the Blue Jays in second at 92 and 70. Not ready to take that full leap with them yet to, say that they're going to be the best team, but maybe that does change a little bit. I have the record Red Sox the same record, 83 and 79. I think I'm probably underestimating the Rays a little bit, having them at 81 and 81 in fourth place, and then the Orioles pulling up the rear at 79, 83. I agree with you. They're not there yet. Obviously, they have a couple great players, and they're still, a team on the rise. But I love Yoshida for Boston. I really wanted him. We weren't going to do it. But, there was the connection where he's obsessed with Bryce Harper. He would want to come and play here, but it just wasn't happening because I think they said I think they paid him 90 or 100 million, and then they had to pay the team in Japan that he came from another 15 million. So like everyone said, is it over? But did they pay too much for him? But you see the way he swung the ball in spring training this year. He's just got a natural swing. It's going to be really good for them. I think the Red Sox are going to be back on the rise.
Yeah, I agree.
I have them in third. So, like I said, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Rays, Orioles.
Where do you have Orioles? What kind of wins do you have on the Orioles?
79, 83.
Okay, we're not far off. Yeah. Just won't get to that 80 again. They got 80 last year. Yeah, that's where. All right, let's go to AL Central. And listen, I was torn on the AL Central. Like I was sitting there, I was like, I want to pick somebody to overtake the Guardians. I do. Like, I'm not saying the Guardians are big. That's not coming out of me, but it's just like they don't impress me. I love Ramirez, and that's it. I know I like Bieber's good. They got some decent infielders in Jimenez and stuff, but in Rosario. But I wanted to find a way to pick someone to beat the Guardians, and I couldn't. So then I got the Guardians winning the division, but I think I see them having a major step down in their win total, and a few teams starting to rise up in their win total. So I got the Guardians winning the division, but only with 85 wins. Going to the Chicago White Sox in second at 81 and 81. I think there's real belief and real truth in the fact that Tony La Russa's gone and that clubhouse was a mess. Jose Abreu said it on his way out to Houston that it was just not fun to play there. I think it'll be fun to play there this year. So they could be sneaky and come up and take them. It just didn't get there on my predictions. Twins, third, 79 wins. Royals, 72, fourth. And then Tigers, 65. One thing I'll say about the Royals, I think they're trying to do some things right to get there. Witt Jr. is a star. Perez is a star. I think they just, like, when you see Zach Greinke starting on opening day for you, I can just sum it up and say they're way off in the pitching. Offense is getting up there. Pitching's far behind. So that's why they're still there. But I think there's some hope for the Royals a little bit this year.
So I'm with you. I'm actually pretty similar to you. I got the Guardians in first place at 90 and 72. I think the Guardians are a talented team, and I agree with you. I think, honestly, I feel like the White Sox or Twins actually might be more talented on paper, but I just don't think that they put it together, and I don't think that either of them have what it takes to surpass them at this point. Maybe I'm wrong because I think, I have the White Sox in second place in the division at 85 and 77 because they have so much talent. Yeah. But they never put it together. Maybe, La Russa being out of there changes things because, again, we know what it's like having a manager that kind of holds you down. So I'm interested to see what they do this year. Twins, I have them at 82 and 80. Tigers, 70 and 92. I put them in fourth place because they're Phillies Central, so but,
with our boy Maton.
Maton and
Vierling.
Yeah, I think we sent a third player over there too. I can't remember. And then the Royals pulling up the rear at 66 and 96.
All right, nice. All right, I'll start off the AL West by going bottom top. I think you guys all know what's at the bottom. It's the worst team in the MLB, in my opinion, only by game to the Washington Nationals. But I get the Oakland A's at 59 wins, losing 103. That is, if we put it on that level, they're just. I'm sure they have a plan, and the Oakland A's impressed me so much. I mean, obviously the Moneyball era, but even just like 2 years ago, they were competitive with the salaries they had and the team they had. Ultimately, if it keeps going this way, they're going to lose a team. They just are. But Oakland A's, bad, and real bad. And they're in a tough division. One that I think had 4 teams over 80 wins. And I'll go to my fourth place team. And I know this will not sit well with Mark and a lot of people out there. It's the Seattle Mariners. I have them 84 wins, 78 losses. I know they're good. I do, believe me. I do know they're good. But there was some luck involved and some factors involved last year. I think they led the league in 1-run wins. In I love Gilbert. I love Ray. I think George Kirby's going to be great. But I just think they're just going to take just a small step back. And the teams are just going to leap them. That's the Texas Rangers, 15-35 in 1-run games last year. They added DeGrom, which is huge for them. Another year of Semien and Seager. I think John Gray bounces back. I think Texas is a team to watch out for. I got them 85 wins, just one more than the Mariners. And then my second place team, a surprising team, the Los Angeles Angels. They were a good staff last year. They just struck out a hell of a lot. They were the number one strikeout team in the majors. Some of that was Brandon Marsh, and now he's over the Phillies. I think, some pieces, Gio Urshela coming over, more Anthony Rendon now. They got gone are the days of let's rely on Trout and Ohtani, and I think they balanced this team a little bit. So I'll take Tyler Anderson, big signing too, from the Crosstown Rivals. And then lastly, I think Houston does win this division. They take a step back, 95 wins, but they win it.
All right, so we're the same except we have a big flip. So I was starting at the bottom, 62 wins for the Oakland A's. They're just not there. I have the Angels in fourth place at 77-85. I just don't believe in them. It's, Ohtani's got 1 foot out the door. I think he's going to compete. He shows he's a competitor, but I just don't think it's enough. The Rangers at 81-81. The DeGrom signing's big. I think they got some good pieces, but they only won 68 games last year. I know you said a lot of those were in 1-run games, but I don't think, I think that DeGrom is, has a chance to be injured by June and, is doing spot starts and stuff like that. And I think it's just going to ruin the chemistry for them. Mariners, I believe in a lot of their young players. I mean, even JP Crawford's good for them. Julio Rodriguez is a star. Yep. And I think his star is ascending. So I have the Mariners at 93-69. And then I have the Astros at 101-61 winning the division.
Wow. They're the biggest one. All right. I like it. I like it a lot. Now we spent some time breaking down where we think, the divisions are going to go and how it looks. We're going to show you our predictions. All right, let me get the banner off the screen there. My bad. All right, me on the left. We went through it, and not far off from Mark. Our only flip in the NL is that I like San Diego in the West. He likes the Dodgers. But then we have every other team the same. We do not have St. Louis. We're Milwaukee. So all 6 teams the same. Just a couple flips in the script about where they're ranked and seeded. For me, coming out of the NL, I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think their loss last year to the Philadelphia Phillies is going to resonate and sit a while. I do think the Phillies sitting there, they're going to have the prettiest matchup on the board here. They're going to get Milwaukee in the first round. And just like they did last year with St. Louis, they're going to take advantage of that, win a 2-game series, and then they're going to have to play a team like Atlanta or like San Diego. The problem is I think they go to Atlanta, and I think Atlanta rebounds from that loss last year. In the end, they get to the World Series. And on the other side, look at me. I got the Yankees as a second wildcard team, but the World Series represented the AL. And that mainly because, like I said, I think they're going to lose games early. But when they get that staff fully together with the Cole, with the Rodon, as we talked about, Severino, I think they make trades at the deadline. I think the kids come up. I think Peraza, I think Volpe. Judge has another banging year. They're good. I think they finally overcome their nemesis, and that's the Houston Astros. So I got Braves, Yankees. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so looking at it, you'll see, as you said, we have the same when it comes to the NL. I think, we're a little different on our AL, obviously. I think the Phillies have, Phillies are going to take down the NL East 2 times in their run to the World Series, as the Phillies take down the Mets in the wild card round, and then they take down the Braves in the championship round to get to the World Series. I think the Phillies take down the Dodgers too. I just think that they have that gumption. I think they have that it factor. This team will only get stronger as the year goes on. You get Harper back. I think they'll make moves at the deadline that are necessary. even in the move that they got for, get Pache today, like they have an idea. They have a chance to solidify center field. They have a chance to do some other things. They have a chance to move these guys around too. And if you want to like sit Castellanos if he's slumping, what have you. Anyway, so I like the Phillies to make it through, take care of business in the NL. And I agree with you. I mean, pretty much the same thing that you have. I think the Yankees have to take down the Astros. I think it's their year to do it. I think it's a lot of pressure for the Astros. I mean, granted, they won the World Series, but for the past couple of years, they, been in the thick of it. And I think they're still going to be in the thick of it. But the Yankees, just like you said, they overcome them. And so, you and I, we have an NL East representative team facing off of the Yankees in the World Series.
So with that, I'll let you go with it. Who wins the World Series?
We're going to be dancing on our own. We're going to have a parade down Broad Street. Got to find a new song, though. Interested to see what it is. But if it's still dancing on our own, I don't care. Go for it. Phillies hold up the World Series trophy.
I love it. And if they can just recreate and put it in a bubble and turn together this cohesion, this glue they had last year, adding Turner will absolutely add that. He's going to be fine in that. It's the loss of Hoskins. I just hope they got enough here. And I'm going to tell you, from my perspective with the Phillies, they got to get a deal done. I know they said they're cutting off talks with Nola.
Yeah.
I don't care. In good faith, you've spent all this money on all these other guys. You got to take care of your guy, man. You got to take care of Nola. I'm not that worried about Hoskins. Hoskins, we talked about his market value will set itself. You got to take care of Nola. You just do it. And I think that's the only way. There's just been this noise out of them that it's not as loving as it was last year. I think it'll get there. Don't get me wrong. If it gets there, they're a team to beat. They're a ball of dynamite. In the end, I'm going to take the Atlanta Braves to win the World Series. Yankees will get there the first time since 2009 when they did beat the Phillies. But the Braves are sneaky good. We've known it every year. It took them a while, but they broke through the other year. They break through when they're not thought of. And I know they're thought of this year. Don't get me wrong, but I think the Padres are the smoke in the NL. I think that's what everybody wants to talk about. I think Braves use that as momentum and as real bulletin board material, especially the loss of the Phillies. I really believe that's going to get them fired up. We were stomping on their grave, and I get it. We should have been. We were whooping that ass. And I hope things change, and I hope we get there. Baseball's a weird season, and I get better feelings when we get closer to the playoffs. Good thing about baseball, you just got to get in the dance.
Right.
Football, there's a lot of teams that get into the playoffs, no shot of winning it. Baseball, every single team that gets to the playoffs has a shot of winning it.
Right.
So, awesome stuff. That's our season-long preview for MLB 2023, 15 minutes in, but we still got some sports to talk about. Hanging with us for the next 10, 15 minutes as we get into our Philly 4-for-4 segment of this great show that we have for you today on March 29th, just one day before opening day. All right, Mark, I got to say, the Sixers came up with a big win tonight. You mentioned it earlier. Tough end of the road trip. Golden State having a lead going to the fourth, blowing it. Phoenix having a lead going to the fourth, and then just a dismal performance in Denver. But you didn't have both the big guns. This was a must-win tonight against the Mavs.
It really was. And honestly, for most of the game, it didn't seem like that they were playing with that fire. We played the Mavs about a month ago, and it was not long after they got Kyrie Irving, and they just ran up and down the floor on us. It shows really the key to beating the Sixers is the Sixers don't really have great perimeter defenders. I know we like Melton, but he's, only so much that he can do. I mean, Harden is a somewhat of a liability. Maxi's somewhat of a liability. You just really don't have, a guy at the three position who is really just, isoing people down. It's just not happening. And, the Mavs were hitting threes again and they were running pace, but Sixers locked down on defense in the fourth quarter. And even at the end of the game, I think the last 3 or 4 minutes, they didn't give up a point to the Mavs. They held them out. I think it was 318 that they held them out for. That being said, things could, start spiraling quick when it was just a very weird turn of events. So you knew you were going to probably lose one of Golden State and Phoenix, but you didn't think you were going to lose both. And
right
now you don't play Harden, but then you play Embiid in back-to-backs in tough situations when he's dealing with an issue. You might as well have held him out against the Suns because you really should have played him against the Nuggets. Now, I know it's about the MVP and stuff like that, but it really probably wasn't the best scenario for him to be playing in regardless. Really didn't have an amazing game. It was just the article comes out Monday during the day about the MVP and stuff, and then he's sitting out. And then
I didn't love it.
I didn't love it. It's not good luck. The whole thing is not good luck. And that's why I said he may have lost MVP. Hopefully he still has a chance at it. It is what it is at this point. Obviously,
the voters are not going to like it. Yeah.
No. The goal is to, do well in the playoffs. But the whole thing was just very weird. I don't really agree.
It felt a little scared, to be honest. And I don't think he's scared of Jokic. I do not. No. Don't take me wrong. But I think he thought I scored 47 in the game against him. That's all I want to show on paper.
If I do less, then they're gonna penalize me for if I have like 30 and 12. They're gonna gonna say, oh, you're not as good or whatever. It was a very weird situation. It brought very having to send Harden home early and the whole thing. It was just very convoluted. So tonight was a very big win. But they looked very sloppy to begin the game too, and I didn't like it. But I think it was just them getting back under their feet because usually like Joe and James do their like give and go and like hitting Joe at the top of the key or at the foul line, and Harden missed the pass completely, like behind him, and it just didn't look good. But they locked it down at the end.
They did, and it was, as we talked, it was just a very, very big win because Dallas came out firing. Dallas has played like trash, let's be honest. So they had a lot of pressure on them to come here and play better, and they didn't. They did, but then they didn't. And here we go. Sixers once again doing some great things to be able to. I saw, Maxey hitting threes. I saw Niang hitting threes. It was just a really good team win overall. They came out in the third quarter and took over, which was huge because, they were down a couple at half, but they were down like 12 right before half, and they made that run to get to 5. And again, being able to neutralize or at least, keep Luka in his own. He only scored, like 25 points or something like that. Yeah. So
Irving had 23.
Yeah. So I think great job overall. And, big win because this is a homestand coming up here. They're only a game or so behind Boston. This is huge. This is huge.
Yeah. No, they absolutely I still think they're solidified into that third, but I think just going into the playoffs with momentum is just really what this team needs going forward.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, thinking of that, the Sixers are how many games do we have left now?
So we've won 50 games. So let me see.
It's not a lot.
50 and 26. So that's what 76, 89, 81, 82. 6 games left.
Yeah. And I know we got the Bucks and the Celtics coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be big. It's going to be big, and it's going to be fun down the stretch. But there was rumors, and I got to talk to you about this real fast before we flip off the Sixers, that, if this end of the season doesn't go well, it could actually turn into Harden leaving and Embiid forcing a trade. Did you hear that?
I think I only heard JJ Redick say that the people around the team would be drastically different, but I didn't hear any further about that. But not surprised hearing that that's a rumor.
Yeah, well, it would be devastating, I think, to all of us Sixers fans if we did, have a complete teardown.
Yeah, it's very important that they do well, that they make it to the conference finals. It sounds stupid because I don't know if they're ready to be NBA champions, but really it's sooner than later because they don't really have that much more time to play around with. But they're out in the second round or earlier. You can forget about it. You might as well blow the whole thing up. Might as well blow the whole thing up at that point.
It would be terrible.
It would be terrible.
Terrible.
Your coach, GM, Harden, Embiid, they're all gone, and just start new. Started off with Maxey. I guess you're stuck with Harris. Like, it is what it is. And you just,
I don't even know what you can do with him. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's sad if that's what it gets down to. But it was just news and rumors that I didn't want to see, and I'm just hoping that we get to this point that we have this team together through the rest of the season. We get through this second round and get over this hurdle that we just haven't been able to get over before. Now, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's like a lot of like little things going on, obviously, with the Eagles. We're hearing the Jalen Hurts rumors. Anything critical that you're, kind of keeping your eye on right now?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Eagles, the big thing I see going on right now is the Jalen Hurts contract.
Yeah.
But anything else you see going on? They've made a little bit of trades. They've brought in some decent players, especially with
Terrell Edmonds last week.
What's that?
Did we talk about Terrell Edmonds last week?
Yes. Yep.
We did.
Oh, not Edmonds. No, we talked about Greedy.
Greedy, right? Okay, yeah, because Greedy came before that. Maybe a big signing right there. So everything starts to make sense now because the Eagles signed Terrell Edmonds over this past week, ensuring that he's probably going to be your starting safety. He actually was like, in combined stats wise, he was like one of the top 4 safeties in the league. I think he had like 70 plus tackles. I forget what it was, like 75, 4 and 2 or something like that. I forget what the numbers were. I'll have to go back and take a look at that in a second. But there was only 4 other receivers who did that. And they signed him for $2 million, which is relatively cheap for a guy who, had a relatively decent numbers last year. And it makes you think more came about. So the whole thing is the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson situation.
Yep.
And, it was very weird how it seemed like he was going to be the guy, and then it didn't. How the Eagles came out and said, we tried the first couple of days and then we just had to pivot after that. You look at it, he got $6.5 million. I don't know if you heard this, but it's an $8 million deal with the Lions, but he only gets that other 1.5 in incentives if the Lions are in the top, I want to say it's the top 15 defense.
Okay.
They're not a top 15 defense. And it's like a lot of it has to do with starting, 70% of games or, of the games and stuff like that. All his incentives are upon the fact that they have to be a top 15 defense in the NFL, which is surprising that, his agency goes out there and talks about how they got a good deal and stuff like that. But you're basing it on the rest of the team, your incentives, everything is based on the rest of the team. And essentially you only got $6 million for the 1 year. It's not chump change. We see Terrell Edmonds is getting signed for 2, but you didn't do what you thought you were going to do, and you kind of hurt yourself doing it. So that's why I was interested to see what the number would be for Edmonds. And it shows the Eagles were like, we can go get somebody for much cheaper.
Yeah.
He did.
No, I agree, man. I think the Eagles have I think, it's interesting. There's a lot of people out there that are going to say, oh, man, they really didn't make a lot of improvements. They've lost too many people. But I think they've, plugged in people in good spots. And I think they got shot, man. I really do. I really think – and what I mean by shot, I think they can be better than they were last year.
That's possible. I really think that – I think they surprised a lot of people with how much they were able to either bring back or retain. Obviously, I think Hargrave was a foregone conclusion. Bradbury, I thought there was a good chance he was gone and CJ would be back. And we all got enamored with the emotions of him and his physicality. But if you really look at it, I think we would have been overpaying him if we did a lot. If we gave him like 12 a year, we really would have been, because I think Edmonds can do the same thing at a much cheaper number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's an opportunistic defense.
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
So they did a lot. They brought some in. I mean, you know, I'm interested to see now what they do with the draft with having 2 first, and things are going to be exciting for them. I agree with you. They really didn't lose as much as I thought they were going to lose.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was getting at. Yep. All right, brother, that wraps it up for, an action-packed show here tonight. We're talking sports on a Wednesday night in the Delaware Valley, Philadelphia city of brotherly love. We are Philly 4th and go, 4 for 4, and so much more. I'm Dave Kleckner. That's Mark Tomsini. Get ready for opening day of baseball tomorrow. It's going to be great. Phillies open up in Texas at 4:05. DeGrom, Nola, just going to be fun stuff. We'll be talking sports, Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers all throughout the year here on our regularly scheduled night and sometimes on Thursdays. Mark, you got anything else?
No, just get ready for the season. Get your Cracker Jacks and your peanuts and go enjoy some Phillies baseball because we're back. The one thing I'll say, honestly, such a quick turnaround. It's been insane how fast we got from, the World Series to now. And it probably helped that the Eagles made a Super Bowl run, but it just felt like we were only playing baseball 2 months ago. It really felt like just 2 months ago.
Yeah, it really did. And you know what? It's going to feel even better when we get out there and beat those Rangers tomorrow. But yeah, get that excitement. Citizens Bank Park was the most rockinest thing that it has ever been last year. Let's bring that back. So I'm excited too. For Mark, for Dave, thanks for checking in. Thanks for being part of the team. Until next week, when we talk about Phillies opening week with the Rangers, Yankees, and their home opener, we'll be back then. But that's it for tonight. Take care and go Phils.